guys, and welcome back to the Bail Thangs podcast, a freebie production. I'm Raina, and this is your host, Nicole. In the last episode, we talked about what bail is for, what it's not, and a little bit of the history of it. Nicole, what are we talking about today?
So if you listened to the last episode, you learned an important thing that a lot of people miss. You learned that bail is not punishment, it is not judgment, and it is not sentencing. A lot of people get that mixed up and it can seem unfair. And today we're going to talk about how it's set, why it's set that way, what you need to do if you're in that situation, and why it seems unfair.
So who actually sets bail?
So bail is set by a magistrate. It is a judge. It's a type of judge. It's not like a judge, like a judge in a court of law. It's a magistrate. So they have limited power. They have limited duties. And their main duties is to set bail.
How is it set?
So in the state of Texas, everybody that gets booked into the jail, no matter if you went on a little traffic crime or you went all the way up for something like murder, everybody has to get put into the public safety report. And what that does is it examines your criminal history. It'll look at if you have any misdemeanor or felony convictions. It'll look at if you are on bond right now. And it'll look at if you're on probation, if you're on parole. It examines your patterns and determines your risk.
Is there a difference between a bond set for a misdemeanor and a felony?
There is a difference. So typically misdemeanors are smaller. They're less serious in the criminal justice system. So their bonds are typically smaller. I've seen misdemeanor bonds be anywhere between $1,000 and $5,000. I have seen in certain exceptional situations, I've seen misdemeanor bonds be $25,000 and $50,000. That again comes into play when your public safety report is examined. Felony bonds, those are the more serious charges. They do have more serious consequences, so their bail amounts are a lot larger. Felony bonds start anywhere between, they start at $5,000 and they could go all the way up to $1 million.
You mentioned earlier a pattern. What do you mean by that?
So your pattern is your history. It's going to look at how you behave in the criminal justice system. It's going to look at prior convictions. Were you given probation? Were you given deferred adjudication? And how you performed in those programs. If you are someone who's given probation frequently and frequently completes the program successfully, then you might be eligible for probation again. Or if you're somebody that has been given probation but has a pattern of revoking bonds, that's all going to go into your public safety report. So your report is ultimately going to show if it's a pattern or if it's just a moment.
What is the difference between a pattern and just a moment?
That's a good question. So a moment, I feel like if someone's having a bad day or they've taken something too far, and they acted in the moment, that's just one blip in time. But if there's a pattern of, like for our underwriting standards, if we can see in your criminal history that you have a pattern of not showing up in court, that's high risk for us. So like, let's say you were on bond last year and you missed court, and you were on bond 5 years ago and you missed court. That indicates there's a pattern of you not showing up in court.
So let's talk about something else. Location. How is it possible for people in the same situation, in the same state, to have a different bond?
So Texas is a very large state. There's 254 counties in Texas. All of those little counties are little communities. We elect officials to represent us in criminal laws and commissioner's court and things like that. So our communities are deeply reflected by who we elect to be in those elected official positions. So demographics, things like that. The values of the community strongly affect criminal justice decisions. And so you could have somebody go to jail today in Central Texas, where historically Central Texas is tough on crime. And they're going to be treated completely different than somebody who gets arrested in Houston, Texas, that has a more lenient, more progressive view on the criminal justice system.
So what are they looking at when they determine your bail?
They are looking at several factors outside of the public safety report that deeply examines your criminal history. They're also going to look at your residential status. They're also going to look at your employment history. Do you have access to funds to actually pay for your bond? They're going to be looking at things like that.
So if you were to give a piece of advice to someone going to jail today, what would you tell them for when they're in front of a magistrate?
The thing about getting in front of the magistrate, that happens probably after a long night of waiting. My piece of advice would be this: just remain calm, remain quiet. I know that you're probably passionate about the situation that happened to land you in jail, but that is not the time to tell your side of the story, to tell how you think you got there. It's not the time to determine your guilt or innocence. It's really just the time to get your bond set. It happens really fast. It happens within like 30 seconds. And it's also not the time to be asking questions. That's for your attorney. So get in front of the judge, do what you have to do, take what you get, and then call a bondsman or call your loved ones when you're done. Another thing they're looking for when they set bail is the probable cause affidavit. That's probably the biggest piece that they're examining. So the probable cause affidavit is going to lay out the arrest, what evidence was collected to determine the arrest. One of the main jobs of the magistrate in that point in time is to determine if the probable cause affidavit is valid. And if it's not, and I have seen this happen, if the probable cause affidavit is not valid, you can literally walk out of jail that moment. But most of the time, we want to think that law enforcement is doing everything that they can to protect and serve us. So most of the time, probable cause affidavits are valid.
So there's a lot that goes into this, but why does it feel so unfair?
I think it feels so unfair because first and foremost, it's a financial obstacle. On top of everything else, on top of getting arrested, all the time it took to get booked into the jail, waiting for the magistration process, and then it just feels like one more thing. And then it's on the edge, like posting your bail, finding out your bail and then posting it. That's right on the edge of actually getting out. And that's obviously your main goal when you get booked into the jail, is to get out. I feel like it seems unfair because it's different. I feel like the statute, the Texas statute, lays it out to be uniform across the board, but in practice, it's not uniform across the board. So you have those situations where someone can go to jail in Houston, Texas, and get out with a general order bond. And then you have somebody that can go to jail for the same charge here in New Braunfels, Texas, and have to post a bail bond. It's the thing about it is criminal justice system is dynamic. It's not static. It's always changing, and it almost kind of feels like the rules are changing as well. I think the best thing to do would be to try to avoid it. I know that's probably easier said than done, but in my experience, it's better to know and not need it than need it and not know what to do.
Well, that's all the questions I have for you today.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to our podcast this week and learn something about the criminal justice system. In the next episode, we're going to get even real and deeper than that. We're going to talk about why some people stay in jail even when the bail is set. This can be even more confusing and more frustrating than the topics that we've already laid out, but we've got some really good juicy stuff for you in the next episode. If you're enjoying what you're listening to and you're learning something, I have more of this kind of information on my social media pages. Like, share, subscribe, and follow me on TikTok, Free Me Bell, Facebook, Free Me Bell, and YouTube, Free Me Bell. We'll see you in the next episode.